Hello, lovely baby gangsters out there. I hope your Monday is going well. I'm doing great. Hope you're doing great. Today we're going to be talking about yesterday's video, which was the Homecoming video in Ahita Story Quest Act 2, and specifically talking about the idea of lore, not just like lore itself, but the idea of lore, and I guess my understanding, or as some of the comments, very politely put, my jumbled understanding of the lore. And I think that's probably like the general consensus is my lack of understanding or a jumbled understanding of some aspects of the lore. One of the things I always say about Genshin is that I could do a full video essay about any character, and I could definitely talk about any character at length. I could talk the ear off anybody. Like if there was a Genshin conversation, we had a conversation about Farazan. If we had a conversation about Ito or Amber or Jean, I could do it. No problem. Like these are characters that I love. I love characters. I love story. I love gameplay. I love all this stuff. I could talk about them so much. But then again, when it comes to a conversation about like the total lore of like the deeper aspects of the lore of the game, 100% I understand that. I think that if it came down to like a water cooler conversation with our Genshin fans, I would definitely have to like struggle to keep up in a lot of aspects. And that's usually where you guys come in though as well. I want to say that like when I play Genshin, it feels like I'm on a Genshin picnic. I'm taking all my stuff, like, oh, here's my character, my information about characters, my information about story, my love for characters, my love for the story, all this stuff. Oh, here's the gameplay, here's the visuals, here's the music that I understand, and here's a little bit of the lore as well. And as I'm going forward, some stuff drops out, like say like, oh, the potato salad drops out, and that represents the deeper aspects of like, this is like, hey, you forgot about this lore about the heavenly principles. You forgot about this lore about the baptismal dragons and stuff like this. And it's you guys picking up the pieces as I'm going forward. So my picnic is still complete by the time I get to the picnic. I'm not at the picnic yet. I'm still walking the trail. I'm still going through the forest, you know what I mean? Because we still have a lot to catch up on. But also, like when it comes to Genshin, I am just like not involved in the community as much at all as other creators must be. And I do greatly appreciate that. I appreciate that that's what this game is. Because I think it's always like, the comments are always like, okay, Calvin has a really big understanding of this character and made me think about this character even more. And then when it comes to lore, it's like, okay, here's some help with the lore. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever of you guys picking up the pieces behind me. I will also say that my interaction with Genshin is 95% on here. Like legitimately, my interaction with Genshin is I make a video, I interact with you guys in the comments, or I might post a picture of like Kaveh on Twitter, and then people will be like, oh, he's beautiful, and that's literally it. Like there's like I don't talk about lore on Twitter, I don't talk about that aspect on Twitter. I don't even interact with the Genshin community online beyond the comment section and the Patreon chats and Twitter. Like there's no, and when I say Twitter, I mean like I legitimately will see a post on Twitter and be like, not interested. Like if someone posts a picture of like Jean, like and just be like, Jean is like such a fabulous lady, I will literally press not interested on that, so Twitter can be like, okay, he doesn't want to see Genshin posts. Like, and that's because I know at this point with Let's Plays to not interact in that way with the game that you are playing because you will get spoiled for stuff. And randomly too, people will randomly spoil stuff by accident. Like someone will post something from Fontaine and be like, this story was the saddest story I've ever seen in my life. So I just keep clicking not interested. So I don't really have that interaction. I don't bathe in like the lore that a lot of people get to do or bathe in the story. Once this lore piece happens, you know, we talk about it in the comments. I think about it for a bit, and then like, I don't get to do the other aspect of the Genshin community, which is like, okay, let's sit down, let's all talk about this, let's talk about this for days. That's something that doesn't get to happen with me, unfortunately, but also fortunately at the same time, so we can keep this playthrough kind of pure and a first playthrough and have all of my interactions be a surprise. The example I would always give is like Dark Souls. When I was playing Dark Souls all the time, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, you know, when I was playing Bloodborne, Sekiro, Elden Ring, all these games, I was able to interact online all the time with the lore, so I was able to have a really vast understanding of the lore, because after I would read the lore in the game, I would then come to like Twitter or be online in like the comment sections and stuff and be like, this is what I think. And someone would be like, oh, well, this is what I think. It's like, okay, this is what I think. So we could all have this understanding. I could read other YouTubers' understandings. I could watch other YouTubers' videos on it, watch their playthroughs. It was all this thing where it was like, I could have a full understanding of this. It's not always going to be that way with Genshin, but I am glad you guys are here to have like my back when it comes to some stuff that I should know. You guys are very good at making sure that I don't get spoiled. Surprisingly enough, like the Genshin community is actually like extremely good at like not saying anything about like future parts of the game unless it's like necessary. Like, even stuff like the way you pronounce people's names, no one will correct me until we get to that person's name because they don't want me, like, having any interaction with the story that I haven't seen yet. It's a really cool thing. Also, the last time I read Before Sun and Moon was the start of July. Then I, like, if you think of it in the true way that, like with Before Sun and Moon, that happened was, like, I read Before Sun and Moon, then I had to wait a month to talk about it with anyone, really. Like, I talked about it a little bit in the Patreon chats, like, maybe I might post something like, this is my theory about this, but people didn't want to spoil anything further or talk about anything further, so I didn't really have a massive discussion about, like, Before Sun and Moon, or, like, the idea of Before Sun and Moon, so I literally had to wait a month before I could even discuss Before Sun and Moon. Which, like, I don't think anyone really has had to do that. You know what I mean? And that's not me, like, I'm making excuses, because it's not really something you make excuses for, because, like, who cares in the end of the day, but I just think it's a fun thing to talk about anyway. So yeah, we're going to read some comments here. They're a little shorter comments, but I think that they are good comments. There were so many good comments, even longer comments as well. Someone put a super chat there, you can read that in the comment section as well, that has, like, a lot of, like, information in it as well. So, like, read all of those. Like, if you want to have, like, a discussion of lore, it's all there. It's a really good comment section. But I just picked 3, like, comments that, like, popped up in the first succession, and we're going to talk about them here, just so, like, we can have, like, a lore discussion in this comment section as well. So this is from Rena. So I don't know if you'll read this, Calvin, but I just want to help a bit with the lore. Thank you. You're already on the right track. Dragons are the original occupants of Teyvat. Yep. Led by the 7 sovereign dragons. The usurper is the heavenly principles, or in the book Before Sun and Moon, it's called Phanes. Yeah, so the primordial one. Yeah, so we did learn about this, but I think, like, it kind of just, like, the heavenly principles, I knew about the heavenly principles, but I think we kind of just, like, it slipped our mind for sure, which is why I like having you guys here. Phanes created 4 shades of himself to help him in the war against the dragons. They won the war and gained control of Teyvat. He created humanity after Teyvat and is clean from the dragons and suitable for habitation. So I did know about this aspect. I did know for sure about this, but I think where I got jumbled up when it came to this war was that I always get jumbled up between, like, the original war and the Archon war. That always happens to me. But yeah, when I was like, oh, there was a war with dragons and stuff like this, I forgot that, like, when I think of the dragons, I always think of those, like, little Bathmissile Bishops, and I think the idea of a pet being so big just, like, confused me a little bit, and I will always get confused about, like, the idea of the wars. But yes, we did know about this, and it was even, like, we saw that in the Ashikai lore video as well. Later, the heavenly principles created 7 Gnosis, and the gods across Teyvat did the war obtained to attain those. We saw that in the video yesterday, a Pep was like, yo, Nikita, you can't be calling yourself a god just because you got these Gnosises. Because, like, it's like, I was here longer than you. You took this place from me, you know? Those who won became Archons. This period of time is called the Archon War. Yes, yeah. So that means the Archons are under heavenly principles. That's why Pep loathes Nikita so much, yeah. She was one of the 7 sovereign dragons. After all, her dominion had been snatched away by Nikita's boss. That's the thing. Yeah, it's actually, like, something that, like, I didn't mention yesterday. But I think kind of alluded to it, but, like, this is a way more better detailed explanation of what, like, actually happened. Because I was like, oh, he hates Nikita just because she's arrogant. That he thinks, like, oh, she thinks she's arrogant. You're arrogant about, Pep is like, you're arrogant about, like, only being a god, but you've only been here for, like, a portion of the time that I've been here on this planet, and the dragons have been here on this planet. So, like, why do you get to call yourself a god? But the actual aspect of it is, like, hey, there's a loathing of Nikita because, hey, you took our dominion from us. Your boss, not just Nikita, of course, your boss took this dominion off us. Then about Al-Hamar and King Deseret. Deseret's ambitions was actually great. He wanted power so his people can govern over themselves. Humanity will stand beyond the heavenly principles. So Deseret asked Nabu Makalita, or the goddess of flowers, to teach him about the power of knowledge. It was a forbidden knowledge or the abyss. For a side note, Sumeru was once ruled by 3 gods, Rukkhadevata, Deseret, and Nabu Malika. They're all friends. So here's the thing about this comment. I think this is where definitely I got a little jumbled as well. The idea of the goddess of flowers. This was mentioned before, but again, since it was like a month ago, I think, sometimes it's good to be reminded about this stuff. And sometimes maybe I should just, like, watch over, like, story cutscenes as well. Because I will, again, like I said, I pick up everything about the story and the emotions, and sometimes things will just, like, slip out. That just happens. But yeah, this idea of like, I think where I was also getting jumbled yesterday was when I was saying like, oh, is Deshret actually like, was his ambitions like just one big trick all along? Did I see him? It was the cutscene we saw before of him being like friends with Ruka Devata. Was that maybe not as true as we thought? But it just seems that like, you know, there's this idea in Genshin that I need to get drilled into my head that not everyone is absolutely good to everyone's eyes, and not everyone is absolutely perfect or bad in everyone's eyes, and not everyone is evil in everyone's eyes. Everyone has their own ambitions and their own ideas. And I think it's also something that we definitely need to understand. However, the abyss that Deshret brought contaminated himself and everything. You might remember from the cutscenes of Super Mario Conquest, yes, showed that Ruka Devata had spent nearly all of her power to heal it, turning her small. Yeah, we definitely know that aspect for sure. King Deshret also sacrificed himself. The sacrifice here was told to let himself be eaten by a pep, so it was still a sacrifice. And I think that, again, when I got the idea from a pep that it was like, hey, this was like a trick, this was like a dastardly thing to do, I think at that moment I just thought about like, oh, I have this giant dragon before me talking about like what happened to them, and like, you know, it's hard not to sympathize with them because they were like these people who were here on this place first, you know what I mean? So when they say it was a trick, you kind of want to believe them in some way. But like, I think again, it's about perspectives. From their perspective, it's a trick. From Deshret's people's perspective, it's a beautiful sacrifice. King Deshret also sacrificed himself. The sacrifice here was to let himself be eaten by a pep. As they both agreed before, the contaminated Deshret made Apep sick by the forbidden knowledge. As to why Deshret made the deal, it was so the abyss could be contained, and Apep would be rendered powerless as she couldn't attack Sumer. So there was a kind of thing like, okay, you can have all my knowledge. This is the sacrifice I'm making. So too, from one perspective, it is still a very ambitious and beautiful sacrifice for his people. And like I said, from the other perspective of someone like Apep, it's like, you tricked me. And I should have realized you tricked me because you guys are all the same. You're friends with Ruka Devata. You took my dominion. Your people took my dominion. All this stuff. Yeah, we're probably going to learn more about this. And we're going to be doing Golden Slumber very soon after we finish the R&R quest. So do not worry about that. I do thank you for this comment. It's very helpful when I get all comments like this because I do read them. And even if sometimes like I do like forget some stuff, like a lot of the stuff I do remember, right? A lot of the stuff I do really remember, but like it's 100% okay to post it anyway. Like the stuff about King Deshret's, ambitions, or like even stuff about like, the cutscenes in previous videos. You can mention that stuff as well because it does help in the end with my understanding and make sure that it doesn't fall through the cracks in the future. Yeah. The next comment is from Flowerbit. And you may remember from when you learned about Before Sun and Moon, the original creatures who called Teyvat home were dragons. Yeah. And they were led by 7 elemental dragon sovereigns and the Dragon King. So this is something that like I didn't remember fully, which was the Dragon King and the idea of 7 dragon sovereigns. I didn't fully understand it, I suppose. I think one of the things that happens with me in videos, and I think you guys would probably agree, is that I tend to like, because I do love characters and focus on characters so much and the idea of stories behind characters, I tend to probably like maybe focus more on the emotional side of things rather than sometimes like the big, vast informational side of things, which, I'm glad to have you guys, like I said, picking up those pieces. But when the Primordial One came from this world beyond Teyvat, they usurped the thrones from the dragons, sovereigns, as far as you know, transferred power to the gods as the 7 Archons. So Apep is actually one of those elemental dragon sovereigns who once ruled the land thousands of years ago, before the time of the Primordial One and the first human. Dvalin, while having anima power, isn't one of those original dragon sovereigns. So I think there was some debate about that idea, about the idea of is Dvalin one of those dragon sovereigns? I think I just used Dvalin as an idea because it's like, it sounds like one of those creatures that became friends with the Archons, because he became friends with an Archon, so it's really interesting to put that into that perspective anyway. So yeah, I totally get where you're coming from with this, and it actually does make a lot of sense. A lot of these comments may overlap each other, but I think that's the point. I'm trying to drill it home in a lot of aspects with this stuff to make sure people know what I know and what I don't know when it comes to this stuff. So Apep is one of the dragon sovereigns who ruled 1,000 years ago, and again, it's about perspective for me as well. Apep knows like what these people took, and Apep has 100% a right, in my opinion, to be a little bit angry. Not a little bit angry, a lot angry, but like I think maybe like it's hard because like while Nahida didn't do anything, Nahida is the embodiment of what was done to the dragons. So yeah, again, like I said, we might read Before Sun and Moon at some point in the future as well. If we get around to that, might be a really fun thing to do. The next comment is from Onan. And it says about the spikes. No, you got it right the first time. The spike that turned Sumeru into the desert fell from where it is now in the desert. It's, I think, that big pile of tornado. It and the nail in the chasm are just the same type of spikes. Celestial nails fell to many places millennia ago, causing all kinds of disasters. In Sumeru, it formed a desert. In Mondstadt, it turned Dragonspine into a frozen mountain. And in Izuma, it covered Sumri Island with impenetrable fog. And Liyue got really lucky as it just formed the chasm without causing major disorders. Yeah, this is something that, like, I felt very silly about, like, getting wrong. Of course I did. I think obviously I knew about the actual spikes and what they did because we've learned about this before, but I think where I could have been more clear about was that, like, I genuinely thought that the chasm spike was, like, the main one. I thought that was, like, this changed everything, but it didn't. Everything was different. Every spike had a different functionality and all this stuff. But that's definitely good to, like, you know, remind me, and not only remind me, but, like, clarify stuff like this with me. Because, again, I appreciate the conversations about the lore because it's my only conversations about the lore that come up with this stuff. But I'm glad I was able to, like, get corrected on this. Corrections are good, especially since, like, I'm like, you know, as the person said, you got it right the first time. I usually say something right, and then I'll be like, wait a second, oh, what if it's actually this? But I do appreciate it. I do appreciate it quite a bit. But yeah, those are a few comments that came up about this video, about the actual video itself, and my understanding in the lore. Again, these weren't rude comments or people being mean whatsoever. No one was being mean. There wasn't a rude comment in sight. Like, it rarely is with my community. I have a very good community. Wait, there's one more comment. It says, oh, you're the most handsome man ever. Sincerely, at everyone. Thank you, guys. Wow, that's not a real comment. It's not a real comment. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I am so appreciative of all of you. I love this series that I'm doing. And really, this video, while it's about my understanding of lore and trying to talk to you guys, it's also like I like to have before I move on to the next video, I also always like to put a pin in a video. And if I can't put a pin in a video properly, then I don't feel good about making the next video, if that makes sense. I like to put a pin in it. And this isn't a pin of like, hey, let's stop talking about it. It's more of a pin of like, hey, more discussions. Let's talk about it more in the comment section below this video too, and we'd have a nice discussion. I'll be in the comments for as much as I can be. And I usually do check the comments like all the time. Yeah, so thank you so much to TieFire2, Jamie Bull, Johnny the Banana, The Ghost of Idazuma, Felicious Felix, Aisgun, Yuld, Radish, Anusa, Shabbatterbed, Malconte, Death Trap, and Links Marky. And guys, I never say this before, if you want to support the Patreon, you can do it down below in the comment section, or not in the description below. I appreciate you. I'll see you guys for the next Genshin video, which is Inversion of Genesis. I don't know how much of it we played, because I take things very slow, but it's going to be starting on Thursday at the very least. I'll see you guys then.